everyone, my name is Manny Popescu. Today I will show you some repairs that I'm going to be doing on another car hauler. A problem that occurs often on equalizers, they wear out fast and need to be replaced. Also, I will be replacing the hanger that holds the equalizer for the suspension system. So let me show you a little bit what I'm going to be doing here. So this is a 4-car trailer, Kaufman. It's a 2 cars on top, 2 cars at the bottom deck, and I already got things ready to show you, and I will show you exactly what I have to replace and why I'm replacing it. Right here in this section on this hanger, which is worn out, I will be installing a new equalizer, but also I have to replace the hanger. Let me show you the damages on the old equalizer. On the left side, where the left suspension gets installed, hose got opened up more, oval, the top cracked, the middle section is also worn out. So basically we need to replace this whole equalizer, but because the hanger is worn out, see, let me show you the holes. They were supposed to be a very small hole and square. See, this is a brand new one, this is the old one. Let me show you how much it wore out. I'm putting a new bolt, and let me show you how much play we have. So that's why I have to replace the hanger, because the hole has to be as tight for the head of the screw, because the head of the screw has a square section. So we will be removing the hanger and install a new one. When I remove the existing equalizer, I had to slice the bolt with a grinder with a cut-off blade in order to remove, also see the nut here, to remove the nut. Let me show you the old bolt that was holding the suspension, which goes on this. We have to replace that. So this is a job that requires some tools and the parts. Make sure you have all the parts before and the tools. I will show you what tools are required to remove this. So first of all, it's the grinder with the cut-off wheel. These are the blades that I'm using. Also a grinding belt, which is a 36 grit. Protection glasses, ear muff to protect your ears, measuring tape, some tools. What we need is a wrench that is 13/16, a socket 7/8, and another socket of 1 inch and 5/16. So basically these are the only tools that you need to install a new hanger, a new equalizer with a new bolt, new nut for this bolt, and then another smaller bolt that goes on the left side to connect the left suspension. Also, let me show you here on the suspension, the bushing is worn out. This is the old bushing. See, it cut through it because it went for about 8 months with no maintenance, and we will be installing a new polyethylene bushing. This is it, that will have to be installed here and pressed or pounded with a hammer. So it's not too many parts, not too many tools, but it's required to do. So I will show you step by step how we're going to be doing this. After removing this old hanger by cutting it with the cut-off blades with the grinder, I will be using a welder. My choice this time is a Millermatic 211 with a very small tank, 75% argon, 25% carbon dioxide. It's a very compact welder that I use on a lot of the jobs here. And when I lifted the trailer, I used on the left side a 4-ton floor jack, and I put it on one of the strongest beams on the trailer. I lifted all 3 axles off the ground, and also I used a smaller power jack, 1.5 tons, to lift each axle individual, and also to put them on these wood blocks for safety. So I will be starting by cutting off the welds on the old hanger. Before removing, you have to mark the section on the structural beam to see exactly where you're putting the new one back. So there's two ways to do this. You could either use a marker and mark both sides on the beam like this, or you could use the grinder, put it right at the end here and do a little bit of a groove into the beam, but not too deep. I prefer the grooves because if these get smudged or erased, then you don't know exactly where you're supposed to put a new one back in. So I will be doing a little bit of a couple of marks, one here and one here with the grinder. These are the grooves that I made with the grinder, with the cut-off blade. I use this. So besides doing it in front here on both sides, you have to go and do it behind the beam in the same location. This way, when you install the hanger, you're not going to install it twisted. It's going to be perfectly lined up with the existing markings. Another thing you have to look at before you remove this hanger is you have to see how much the hanger it's sticking out from the beam on this side and how much it's sticking out on the inside compared to the beam. So right now, from what I'm looking at, it looks like on the left side, which is the exterior of the trailer, the hanger sticking out from the beam about 1/2 inch, and on the inside it's sticking out about 1/4 inch. But before I do that, I will actually take the measuring tape, measure it, take some measurements, make some notes, because this way I know exactly where to put the new hanger. My first cut will be right here in front, and it will be a little bit on diagonal like this. One thing you have to be careful is when you cut the weld, the old existing weld, make sure you don't go with the blade too much on the inside to cut out of the beam. You want to be flush to the edge of the beam, going on diagonal this way until you cut the whole thing off. And you have to do the same thing on the inside, diagonal, slanted down on this line right here on the edge. Not too much on the inside. You don't want to cut into the structure of the beam. So I already did a really deep cutting into this, so now I'm just going to use a hammer to bend that in and to help removing it. First piece is out. Now I have to do the same thing on the other side. That's the next step. After cutting and removing both sides of the equalizer, this is how it looks like. There's still a piece. These are the both cuts. There's still a little piece of the equalizer, which is this one here, that is welded on the right side here. It's welded on the left side. So I still need to do 2 more cuts on the side. Very careful so I don't cut into the beam, just to cut into the welds to remove that piece, because you do not want to install the new piece over this one, because your hanger will be lower by 1/4 inch. So that's why we still have to remove this piece that's left here by removing the other welds and then grinding it clean. This is how I'm going to be removing the last piece. Basically put the hammer here. Okay. Before installing the new hanger in the same spot, I'm going to do a little bit of grinding, because I want to smooth out the edges. See, these edges here are a little bit sharp. They're sticking out a little bit, so I will be cleaning this area to make it all smooth before I put the new hanger. the beam after grinding, it's perfectly smooth on all the corners, all the radiuses. I actually grinded a little bit more. I cleaned the beam more than this line where the hanger is going to be, because you want clean metal when you do the welding. You don't want any rusted pieces when you start welding. So this is how it looks like. To put the new hanger in its place and have it stay there for you to be able to weld it, I used a floor jack 1.5 ton, something light, with a block of wood. The new hanger, I put it in its place, but now I just have to use a hammer and line it up, you know, from here, from the left, from the right, push it in, so adjust it, and then after it's all adjusted properly, then you just lift the power jack until the hanger stays tight. So I'm going to be working on this to adjust it and to make sure that it's, like I said before, 1/2 inch this way, 1/4 inch on the inside. Once the hanger is in its place and the power jack is lifted enough with pressure to keep it there, not to move it, I'm going to be doing 4 tack welds, 1 on each corner. So I'm going to tack weld it here, here, and then on the other 2 corners before I start doing full weld. This way the piece will not warp, it will be even more fixed to the beam. After tack welding the 4 corners, I'm going to remove the power jack. This way I have more access underneath to do the welding on all 4 sides. This is the front, which is the side with the square for the bolt. Again, I did grinding to keep it a little bit smooth. This is how it looks from the back. I did a little bit of grinding on the weldings. I'm ready to install the equalizer, but before I do that, I have to install a new bushing. It's a plastic polyethylene, I think it's called. I have to press it or knock it with a hammer down here. Check on both sides, it's even, it's a perfect fit. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about these parts. So they are original parts. You could buy them from either Kaufman or you could buy them on online, but I will give you the dimensions that are supposed to be for the 3-axle trailer. The equalizer, as you see, is 11 inches long, 3.5 inches tall, and it's for a 2-inch suspension. So the inside is 2 1/8, the exterior is 2.5, and the bolts, the center bolt for the equalizer is a 7/8 by 4-inch and 5/8, and the other one is a 9/16 by 3.5. Both of them are original, and both of these lock nuts, these nuts are actually lock nuts, the ones that I'm about to install. Before putting all these up, I put some grease on the inside here, and you also want to put grease on both bolts before you install them. This bolt has a hole here for the zerk to inject grease as maintenance. So after you grease the whole thing, you have to put the bolt with that hole on top. I will show you, because that's going to be an easier way to grease it later on. So in order to center the hole here, I will be using the pry bar to push it down to make it easier to put the bolt. So once again, the hole is right here, which is perfect. Now you want to use a socket. You don't want to hit straight into the zerk of the bolt. You want to use a socket that it's open. You put it here and then you continue this. Okay, it's all the way in, and now I'm gonna be going on the other side to put the nuts. Alright, now we're gonna tighten the nuts from the inside. On the center one, there is no wrench to be put in the back. All you do is just you hold your hand at the end. You need to make sure you keep it into the square hole. And this one you have to put a wrench 13/16 on the other side to hold the head. And then you tighten this. Okay, not too tight. I have to check on this side, make sure I leave enough space. Now the final thing before I put the wheels up, it's going to be, I'm going to do a couple of welds on this bolt. I'm going to weld the bolt to the hanger on both sides. Same thing on this bolt, a little bit of welding, one on each side, and the same thing in the back to the nuts. This way you will prevent it from spinning and becoming loose, because there's a lot of shaking and rattling on these heavy duty trailers. This is how the finished repair looks like, with all the weldings and the center bolt and the other bolt that holds the spring leaf. And I did the same thing in the back. I did some welding. And this is how the weldings look like on the finished product in the back. As you see, welding right and left of the center bolt. Now it's ready for primer and for painting. First, I'm going to be priming all the new parts with some professional primer that I picked up. This is it, Rust-Oleum primer I picked up at Menards. It's about $5 a can. It dries really fast. It's top quality. I used it for a long time. So I will be starting to prime these parts. The reason I am priming now and painting now at the end is because I wanted all of you to have a better idea of how to install these parts. I usually prime and paint the hanger and the equalizer before I install them. I just grind them and clean them in the areas where I have to do weldings. But for this application, just for the video, I did it all clean for a better video for all of you to see much better all the parts and all the details. Thanks for watching.